This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fully Managed by Penji podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, John Karsant from Level Up Leads. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and kind of where your agency is in the process right now, and what you do kind of on your day to day?
Sure. So I've been working remotely for about 10 years doing different full sales cycle roles. Eventually got into leadership. And then close to 3.5 years ago, I started my own company, Level Up Leads. And so it evolved over time. We started off with just list building, and then we started adding in other channels such as email, LinkedIn, cold calling, SEO. And so the idea is that we're a sales development agency. Companies hire us to help them with prospecting and ultimately set up appointments for them so they have more selling opportunities. So that's what we do. It's certainly been a journey. The space is growing, so I feel like there's more and more demand for it. And I'm excited. This year has been going really well, and I'm excited to see where the next year or two, what brings us, and where the company's going to.
Well, congratulations. And you're actually the first, I think, agency that I've talked to that is specifically lead generation as like a niche, which I think is really interesting. I love doing this podcast, and I love learning different things. And so being able to talk to different niche agencies is really great. So thank you for, again, coming on for me today.
Yeah, sure.
And could you please kind of explain to me what do you define as a quality lead? Like, what is the difference between that and then like a low quality lead? And is sometimes what you define as a quality lead different than what your clients may define it as?
Well, possibly, but what's important is to talk with our clients and understand what is a quality lead to them, right? So then we can incorporate that in call script. Now, on an email, it might be a little bit more challenging. You might send out an email and someone says, "A call here in my calendar." Of course, we do that. Maybe we follow up with some qualifying questions, or maybe before that meeting's set, we'll follow up with some questions. Sorry, before that meeting happens. But it is important to understand what quality or qualified lead, what would make it unqualified. Ask those questions. These are things that we can't find online publicly.
Okay. And then so on a general sense, I guess, what would be the difference between the two to you?
There's certain things you could ask, like the timing, are they something like a need now? Is this a pain point for them? These are all questions that we could ask. Do they have budget? Are they a decision maker? Things like that. Or is it just something where they might say, "Hey, I'm in contract for the next 8 months, but let's at least have a call." It's not going to happen now, but potentially down the line, if they don't renew with their current provider, they could talk, and it could be an option for them.
Okay. So I noticed that your kind of sales strategy seems to, and this is good because I feel like this is the goal for everyone, is to have more of a long-term goal than a short-term goal, because a lot of people will set people up for success, but then it's just for a short period of time, and that's when you're getting all these leads, but then after that it's kind of quiet. What's kind of your process for making sure that something lead generation stays long term rather than in a short burst?
It's a great question. And we have to talk to our clients a lot about this and set expectations because it's not realistic to just start outbound, cold outbound, and expect results right away. Especially some of our clients, they do not have a defined ICP. They may be targeting a new region or creating a new product, something that's never hit the market before. There is a lot of learning that needs to be done. Mm. So it's a matter of about setting expectations with each client. Mm. Can you repeat the question? I kind of lost track here.
No, you're totally okay. So, what's your kind of strategy to
Okay,
guarantee that you reach a long-term goal?
got it. Okay, my bad. So I actually post about this a lot online about expectations of outbound that could potentially lead to inbound over time. And so while outbound can actually provide, like, can give you results right away, um, that's just not always going to happen. You have to understand your ICP. You may be targeting a new market or launching a new product. And so you need to learn a little bit and make adjustments along the way. So you do need to set expectations like, hey, we need to get some data. Right? We're not just going to hit a home run at every time we step up to the plate. And over time, you can make adjustments. Over time, you can build relationships. People may be asking for more information. You may have some phone calls. You keep in touch with people. So then over time, when the timing is right, you're the first person they think about when it's time to make that decision.
I think that's fantastic. Oh, you still
Yeah,
there?
I'll actually add on to that. Some other things. So we just talked about outbound, but other things, the reason why we recently rolled out SEO, because it allows for long-term growth as well. So short-term with cold outbound, you can start to get some results, but long-term, eventually over time, you want to start showing up organically online. So when people start searching for certain keywords, you show up. Now that takes time. So it's a little bit of a longer process, but over time, you can start building up organically and inbound. Over time, it's just going to convert so much better than cold outbound when you compare.
So, okay, I thought this is kind of it's interesting because I'm sure that every agency is kind of doing for themselves what they're doing for their clients, but I was wondering if there's any difference between how you generate leads for yourself as an agency, if it's any different than how you do this for your clients.
A lot of it, we do a lot of the same stuff. Now we are able to generate more inbound. So we built up a brand. We're on future pages like Clutch. We're on LinkedIn, different things like that. Where not our clients won't always have that. But in terms of the outbound, yeah, it's pretty similar.
Do you ever run into a problem where you believe that there might be something else that an agency needs to do in order to generate leads that you can't necessarily help with?
Well, there may be some companies where they have a unique market, and getting in touch with those people, it could be more challenging. There may be people that aren't present online as much, which makes it a little bit more challenging for us. Now we could cold call them, but there's some where, like some companies, they just do conferences. They get a bunch of leads from conferences, and that's their main source of leads. So, but that's rare, right? That doesn't happen too much. There are unique cases. Even so, we can work conferences. It's actually one of our best campaigns. We always suggest that with our clients. If they have past conferences or future conferences, to do outreach before and after.
So,
Those work really well.
okay, do you plan these like if they have conferences or events that kind of generate leads them as well, do you just convey this to them and they set this up, or do you do any kind of planning for them?
Well, they have to agree to go, right? So get their
I
people.
mean, of course, we don't
Potentially,
go for them as like a spokesperson.
they're paying for a booth. Those things can add up. But if they are going and they're using us, then it just makes sense. We see it's not quite as cold in terms of our outreach. So we're able potentially people coming and actually stopping by the booth at a certain time to get a demo. We've had clients where, and this works really well, where they'd host an event outside conference. So that could be like something at a restaurant, or they get a box at a sporting event. We had one client that had I think it was a hockey game. They got a box and it ended up converting really well and building relationships, and they had really big deal sizes. And then post conference, we can follow up and it's just, oh yeah, you were there. Okay, we were there Friday, Saturday. We couldn't make it Sunday. Things like that. We can actually personalize the outreach a little bit more, and those are probably our best performing campaigns.
I was gonna ask, I guess you can tell me if there's a disparity between this, but do you think that there is in doing this for so long, do you think that there is a common strategy that works better than anything you've ever seen kind of for like across the board, like the best networking strategy for generating leads?
Like specifically for at events, or just in general for doing
In
outreach?
general, like what do you think is the kind of something that you feel like works for everyone?
Yes, you kind of have to understand what do you have at your disposal, what in terms of your company and who you're reaching out to. If it's just cold, this can still work. Don't get me wrong. We set meetings all the time, just doing pure cold outreach. But is there anything that you can do outreach on and somewhat personal or personalized or relevant to them? So it could be maybe an event, like even online. It could be a webinar. It could be something they gave away for free. There's all sorts of things in it. You tie that in. It could be your offer. It could be just the approach too. Like recently started a new job, recently funded, using a certain competitor in terms of a technology, and in tying that into your outreach will make it more relevant, and more personalized. We find that to work quite well. It's not going to work for everybody, but what I'm trying to say, if you have something like that where it can work in your strategy, certainly implement it.
I definitely agree that personalized approaches are kind of the best way to go for agencies for reaching people. I talked to a lot of agencies about this phenomenon actually quite often. Even just maybe not even for generating leads, but like maintaining a referral system that maybe isn't formalized, like not maybe you don't have some kind of survey or like a formal form to be able to fill out after you have good service or something with an agency. A lot of people will just refer you to their friends or something based off of something personal that you did afterwards, which I
Yeah.
think is something that's really great. Is like some people will send like handwritten letters, and it's like if you're a smaller agency, that's very attainable. If you're a larger agency, kudos to you if you are able to send so many personalized messages like that. But I think it's something that a lot of agencies can learn from taking a very personalized approach to at least if not all aspects because it's too difficult to do that, at least some.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to what you're saying is in building these relationships, and if someone does something nice for you, or maybe they're just a long-term client, and you do something out of the blue, such as send them a gift card, mm, they'll remember that whether they're at that job or move to the next job. And so it's very common someone that we're working with, or even in the past, will get a new job and they'll call us right away. And like, I'm here, I have more control, I have more budget. Let's get on a call. I want to get something set up. I think it's really important to build relationships with people, the company too, but people will remember you no matter where they go in their career. And it feels like this in this day and age, it's like people are changing jobs more frequent, or potentially, actually, there's lots of layoffs. And so when they get a job, it's important to have a network of people that you're close with, can trust you and refer you.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to be able to. It's also really for that person who's referring you, it's great to have good connections with someone that you know can do good work because it also looks good on them to be able to talk about an agency that had done such good work for them and then improve maybe the place that they work at. So it's like it's a double-sided coin. It's like very the word I'm looking for. Mutual. It's a great relationship to have, and it's always nice to be able to recommend someone something that they'll also like, even with like simplest things like a restaurant or something like that. That all kind of
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in, let's say, being able to bring, whether it be an outbound agency like us or a software or even hiring. If you can refer someone, you don't can kind of get to the front of the line and make that decision quick, and hopefully it's the right one. It saves you a lot of time and energy and resources. Like just think about going through a hiring, how many, whether you're interviewing multiple outbound agencies or just someone to hire internally, the amount of resources that go into that and the cost. It's really beneficial to just be able to trust someone you recently hired to bring on a software or a service, a new hire right away. There's a lot of value in that.
yeah, that's definitely it. Also a parallel to a referral system where it's much even client base. It's a lot nicer and usually already starting off on a good foot to have a client that you've already done good work for, they recommend you to someone else, and then that next client to build a relationship to them. I think it's much more authentic and less of a struggle to be able to form a relationship with this new person because they already have a connection with that old person. And that's why referrals are so important as well.
100% agree.
Do you guys have a referral system for
Sure.
your agency?
Yeah, we do. We actually, anyone that refers us and they sign up, we give them $1,000.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's so how okay, so because referrals are super important, I think, to agencies in general, do you think that what is a part of your process when dealing with clients that you think can kind of guarantee a referral from that experience for them?
Well, I think the main thing is results. Did you the goals that we had agreed upon or do better? And ultimately did those turn into sales? So that's going to be the most important thing. But there's more to it, right? How the communication, dealing with the team, how fast are you responding to things, the quality of the SDR. Like there's a lot that goes into building that relationship and building that trust. But I still think at the end of the day, it's the results that will carry the most weight.
I yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, if they don't get the results that they want, then they're not gonna refer you for sure. Do you how do you tend to communicate with customers? Like, what's kind of your layout for doing it effectively, making sure that they feel cared about?
So we're in Slack with our clients, and we're basically communicating with them every day. And then we have calls when needed, or we just have actually have scheduled calls. We do 2 a month, or we can always jump on calls when needed. Sometimes there's little things we need to talk about, but Slack is great. We can connect with all of them, and we have our team in there. They have their team in there, and so we all communicate on a regular basis.
Are you I know there's kind of this difference between a lot of agencies where sometimes the CEO is accessible to clients, sometimes they're not, because it makes sense. Sometimes there's a lot to do and sometimes you're not able to be accessible. Are you kind of centered at the communication for clients, or is it something like you have a system in place so that they have to go through a chain of command kind of thing?
There's a system, but I'm still in all the chats. We're not. We have 50 clients, so we're not so big. I can't at least read some chats here or there, or see if I get tagged and stuff. But there is a team in place in terms of fulfillment. We have about 6 people involved in every client. Mm, I typically have to do if there's any issues. That's where I get called in. But if not, if everything's going smooth, then I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's good when you don't have to get called in. That means, everything's working out.
It's more and more that I'm not actually dealing with any clients on the fulfillment side, stepping further and further away, the bigger we get.
That's really, I mean, it's good that you're able to do that and also trust your team to be able to, go through with that after you're not able to be as heavily involved in things. So okay, you said that a lot of times if we do get called in, it's usually because like, you need to fix something or whatever. If that does happen, how do you manage say a mistake or maybe like an unhappy client or something? Maybe it has nothing to do with you or your team or anything like that. It's just like, maybe they're just not happy with something arbitrarily. How do you do damage control?
It depends on the situation. Typically, it's just around like, hey, how can we work? Because we're on the same team here, so how can we work together to improve results? And that could be using a new channel. It could be using more of a particular channel based on where the results were before, based on the history of our campaigns. Mm. That's typically it. It's just trying to figure out in the strategy, okay, what can we change? Maybe it's the targeting, maybe it's the industry. Oftentimes, clients they want to target the CEOs or in the C-level execs all the time, and that's great, but that's not always who you're gonna initially get in with that company. So it's about talking like, hey, maybe we should go down a little bit, get in with, let's just say, a manager or director, and then that second meeting you can get in the VP or C level for whoever we're trying to target. So little things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that as someone that also uh does outreach and has a team of people that do outreach for me as well. I think that a lot of people are overzealous with trying to always get into contact with CEOs or our founders, and that's sometimes very difficult depending on the type of business. Especially like large businesses, it's almost impossible, and, unless you know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy, and so to get the foot in the door is to, talk to someone else, that, can maybe, like, you can work your way up, and I think that's definitely a good
Exactly.
strategy, but I think a lot of people don't look at it realistically like that because 'cause they're like, "Well, I don't care about talking to this other person." We're like,
Mhm.
"You might not, but then that person's still important to this
Yeah.
process."
A lot of times it'll depend on the company size of who you're reaching out to. So if,
Mhm.
let's just say they have under 50 people, then yeah, that might make sense to reach out to level. Mm. But you got to paint those expectations because sometimes the companies we work with, they haven't done outreach before. You got to kind of explain to them, hey, this is the most realistic way to get that meeting.
Yeah, you gotta work your way in. It's even, um even in the history of, like, the podcast, like, if we work with, a company that is much larger, sometimes we just to be able to, like, talk to the company at all, like, it's nice to be able to, just get to know them and everything like that. We'll have a guest on that does something different than, like, a CEO or founding position, and, um they see that, like, the company knows about this thing happening because usually you have to let the CEO know that you're doing some kind of media project. And then it gets back to them, and they're like, "Oh, let me answer your email now." Like, if they ever get an
Mhm.
email in the past, like, "Oh, sorry." And, like, that's a funny way of doing it too, but, yeah, it's just, I think it just depends on, the time that people have, like, if they think you're worth talking to, and I think that can change based on, how you communicate over time. Yeah, I think a lot of agencies, may not understand that concept yet, or, or maybe they have a great history of being able to get into contact with CEOs, and if they don't realize that, sometimes it is difficult.
Yeah, and sometimes there are companies we work with that will be like, oh, we've it's been all referrals up to this point. Like, okay, that's great, but that's not how cold outreach works. And so again, I think it comes down to company size. Mm, and oftentimes we do reach out to C level, but the bulk of it is lower level. Could be director VPs. It depends on the company size, but lower level within that specific space. Whether it's like technology or sales or
Do you ever have to kind of convince a client to want to think a certain way about how they need
Yep.
to generate lead.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, a recent story, we had a client come on and I think they're based in Europe and they want to target in the States where we do most of our targeting. And we told them to do cold calling, but they didn't listen. They wanted us to do email and LinkedIn. So I think it was about after the first month, they weren't happy because there were very little results. Well, we had to have a call and say, well, remember we see cold calling. That's where we're seeing most of our results across the board for all our clients. We're like, let's just give it 1 month. We're not going to change your price, even though it's a bit more expensive. And I think it was better than we had even expected. The amount of meetings that came through. He actually on the next call he apologized and said we were right. And this doesn't always work like that.
That's nice.
It was nice, and we had to convince him. And so now we're talking about keeping that on at the normal price, of course. But yeah, it was actually quite a cool story.
Well, that's really nice. I mean, at least, it's nice when you hear, "You were right." Like, you don't hear that very often,
Yeah,
but it's
it's
true.
hard for a lot of people to say that, but it was one of the first things he said on the next call.
Oh, that's very kind. And it's also nice. I mean, like, I'm sure everyone appreciates, good outcomes or the outcome that they wanted, but, it's very difficult to admit that you're wrong, but also that maybe, like you could, you if you have experience where something worked out and maybe it's not working out anymore, it's not like something that you can initially project if you don't know a lot about the field. So it's like definitely humbling.
Yeah, and let me expand a little bit. So the reason why cold calling works the best right now is best way to get direct feedback. So if I send you an email, you've got probably a bunch of different things going on. You have no idea who I am. It's very easy to ignore. It doesn't allow me to get no, we'll get responses, but not as much as cold calling. The direct feedback, if people we get people on the phone, even if it's not a fit or they're not the right person, the direct feedback on that and understanding why is so much more powerful and so much quicker to going in the right direction. Also, when you do get them on the phone, we have a calendar open for our client. It's so much easier to book meetings directly in a calendar rather than emails back and forth. Potentially don't respond. Cold calling the feedback loop is just so much better, and we a little bit to my surprise, but over time it's become our number one channel.
That's actually really interesting. I do is so cold calling, are you using that as an overarching term? Like I'm assuming you're not doing the traditional like literally going on the phone and calling people. You're cold messaging, correct?
No, we're cold calling people.
You're actually calling. Interesting. So for across the board that works, people are actually answering the phone. That's incredible.
That's why
I really thought you were talking about like because a lot of people use it as like a term like they just mean like cold outreach generally.
yeah, so it's cold in general, but there's different channels. So the main ones what we will work is email, LinkedIn, and cold calling. But cold calling is where we have the bulk of our success. And for some of the reasons, as I was explaining, is like we can get people on the phone and have conversations with them, understand if they're the right decision maker, understand timing, ask them, back previously you're asking about qualifying questions, right? What makes an appointment qualified? Well, we can ask them those questions. We're on the phone with them. So it just works so much better, and we have the results in terms of qualified book meetings. It's about double or triple from cold calling than emailing.
No, that's actually a great fun fact. I love learning on this podcast. That's like literally people. So that's really interesting because you were talking about talking back and forth, but again, I was like assuming messaging when you were talking about it. So that's very cool and that's really interesting. I guess when I think about cold calling specifically, I just think about why I would never answer a phone call if from someone that I don't know, and I think, like, a lot of people probably do that, but I'm sure businesses are very different. I'm not a business. I'm a person that works for a business.
Oh, it depends, right? This is just a random scenario, but it's like you may have kids and maybe it's like they're at daycare and the daycare is calling you. Like people answer the phones. My parents worked in real estate and you never know if that's a referral coming from somebody. And so if you're not answering a lot of your calls, like you could be missing out on things. I typically don't answer my phone that much, but sometimes I do, and it's like really important. I was like, oh, I'm glad I answered that.
My thought is that if it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. You know, that's
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's still. I mean, I don't know if you do leave voicemails. Do you leave voicemails?
It depends on the client. It depends on the offer. There's some legality around that, but typically not.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, I guess if I got a voicemail and I was in need of that service, and the voicemail detailed, I do love that voicemails have a description now because I don't actually have to listen to them, read it if it makes sense. A lot of
Nice.
times it doesn't make sense. But that's really helpful to be able to gauge if I needed to answer that call or I need to call them back. And so I was wondering if you did that. It's interesting that there's a legality around it. I guess that kind of makes sense because you can't list certain things. I'm assuming by like.
Yeah, it has to do with leaving auto voicemails, not one.
That's what it is. Can you, if someone is on the phone personally, can you leave a voicemail? Or is it like if it's like, do you mean auto voicemail like you have
It's a recorded.
automated setup? Yeah, correct. So
Yeah,
if it's
recorded
someone
voicemail.
physically calling, are you allowed to leave a voicemail?
Yeah.
Matter what?
Yes.
Okay, I was just curious. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is unfortunately all the time we had today, but I'm happy that I got to learn. This is a quite interesting thing that I didn't know at all. So I'm actually very happy that you told me about this. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. I'm sure we could keep going and talking about the subject, but fine cutting short.
Hey, I apologize for that. We're already a little over time, but this was absolutely incredible, and I really appreciate having you on today. Thank you so much for teaching me different things.
Yeah, of course.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And for everyone watching at home, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more professionals like John on the show. I really appreciate you watching, and thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.